Got another fun one for you guys today. I already opened up this PS5 a little bit. Came in for HDMI port repair, but I had to check first and make sure that these critters were all dead. Because if they're alive, I don't work on them because these things will infest anywhere. They'll infest your shop, your business, your house, anywhere. So you got to make sure that these things are all expired. Um, so that's why this one's already halfway open, I guess you could say. There's some more all around, just sitting around. And these things are super corrosive too, cockroaches. So as you can see in here, you see how much corrosion it's caused. Look at that. That's insane, right? Yeah, it's pretty incredible the amount of damage that these things will do to a system. Like, look at the corrosion up here too. So yeah, just know if you have bugs in the back of your system, it's probably destroying your console. Oh, did I say back of your system? I meant to say in your system. But you can tell that they're in the back. I was ahead of myself. Because of these little dots. You'll see like these little dots all over on the back vent like that. Those little tan dots. That's how you'll know if you have an infestation. Now, the best way to take care of an infestation of a console, okay, without using anything, going out to the store, buying stuff, anything like that, because all of that, you know, if you buy chemicals or something and something's wrong with your system, you spray it inside the system to kill the bugs, and then you want somebody to work with the system, it exposes them to a bunch of chemicals that could be dangerous to their health, especially when using heat and stuff like that. So you definitely don't want to do that. The number one thing that I recommend is to actually put your console inside of a trash bag, tie the trash bag up, not with the drawstrings that you pull, but like tie the actual trash bag completely closed, so no air can escape or enter, and then put another one over the opposite way. Tie that one the same exact way and put it in a freezer for 1 week. Take it out of the freezer. Don't use it for like a day or two. Let it sit at room temperature. And then when you take it out, all of the cockroaches inside or any other bugs that would have been in there to infest will be expired, and they will no longer be alive in your system, which is great. You don't want them alive in your system. If you know you have them in there, you want to make sure that they're expired, because they will infest anything that's warm, right? They'll infest TVs, cars, like anything. So even if you put one of these in your car and they're alive, you can they can infest your car, which I've heard horror stories about that. So other than that though, we're gonna go ahead and dive in and fix the HDMI port on this. Now that we got a majority of those sucked up and we cleaned some of the little specks, which are poop, pee, bug, eggs, stuff like that. Got some of those scraped off. We can start to take off the side panel now and expose the motherboard so that we can pull that out and get the HDMI port replaced on it. I'm gonna skip the whole screw taking out process. Alright, we got the side panel off now with the motherboard exposed here. Once we go to take this off, the cockroaches, if they are alive, small ones, will tend to be in this area on the flip side of the board. They hang out around the ports and stuff like that. So we just need to be careful when we take this off to make sure that we examine that area like a hawk, right? We need to look in there and make sure that there's none in there. You can hear I'm kind of out of breath right now. Whenever I run into the situation like it always gets to me a little bit because I really do not like bugs at all. So, especially cockroaches. Okay, let's just examine. Wow, somebody worked on this before and did a terrible job of whatever they did with the liquid metal, that looks horrible. I don't even know what's going on with that. Okay, it looks like there's none in the ports or around the port, so I think we're good on that. We're gonna go ahead and get this set up in our soldering station and get the port taken off and put a new one on. Okay, bad news as we're looking at this. You can see, as I've shown in previous videos, there's no solder in the footholes. On that side, on this side, look how horrible that looks. It looks awful. And on the back, I noticed some scratching. Let's see if we can take a look at that. You see those scratches back there? Right there. What are those? The port is not connected by any means. So all the pins are off of the board, which hopefully you can see from this angle. I'm not too sure if you can see that or not, but all those pins are off and there's weird scratch marks behind there. I've never seen that before. Obviously whoever tried to fix this last time did not do a good job though. So let's get this off and hope that there's something that we can do about it. Alright, we're going to be applying heat. I already put new solder on the pins on the back of the new port here, so none of the copper is exposed. Now they all have my solder on there, so it should be easier to mount that port onto the board. We do have to see first what the damage is behind the port, because sometimes, to be honest, these are too far gone, and what I mean by that is we can still fix it. You know, it may take us 4 hours to do like a full tracer repair for all of the tracers on the board if they were all ripped up. The only thing is, it's not worth it for the customer because they're gonna have a problem where if they break, you know, the port again, they're gonna have to go through and do the whole thing back over again. Not only that, but it's just more likely to keep breaking consistently, so they're gonna have to keep shoveling out money for it. But we don't usually take on those kinds of jobs just because eventually they're just gonna go bottoms up on the console. So we will if people are desperate for it, but we don't typically do that. So it looks like port is already loosening, which is, yeah. Okay, thank goodness. Already it looks okay. So there's a whole bunch of weird stuff going on with the solder foothold over here. The far corner doesn't look like any of the solder is actually mixing in with inside of the hole. Let me see if I can just add some of my solder. There was a piece of maybe there's just not enough solder in there. I'm gonna add some of my solder to it. I don't know how, if you guys can even see this or if it's blurry. Sometimes it gets blurry, but just bear with me. This back hole here and this front one, it may just not have enough solder in them. Let's try poking through now. Yeah, I'm not sure if this hole is messed up. It looks like this foot hole might be messed up. I don't know, I'll have to check the flip side of the board, see what's going on with that. Or I might just be able to, you know what, I might just be able to throw in the port actually. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and set the new port on there because worst come to worst, that hole is damaged, but it'll shove the solder that's on top here into the hole. And then it'll connect it to the foot of the port, which will close space off and eliminate the gap. So actually, this might work out pretty good. We'll have to see here. I still don't know how there's scrapes behind the port like that though. That's extremely wild to me. I don't even know how something like that would happen. All I know is whoever worked on this last time did more damage than they did good. So it looks like on the right side there that you guys can see, it looks like the solder is being pulled up into the foothold. On this side, the front one looks good. The back one looks like the solder is just kind of pulling up on top. It does look like it's holding it though. So we'll have to see from the bottom side of the board, once we get the port installed, what that looks like. You just gotta make sure all the pins are connected. It looks like all the pins are touching. We're gonna remove the heat now. Hold and put pressure until the solder solidifies. And once it solidifies, I'll go ahead and check the bottom side of the board, see what we have going on. The solder is crawling up the back leg of the port, but I'm not too concerned about that because it's connected in 3 other spots on the port, so it should still be good. You don't really want to tell somebody that their system's destroyed just because of a single foot hole, you know, because you just tell them, like, hey, you need to be very careful with it. But let's go ahead and check that out. Okay, so I was correct. I fixed it now already. But yeah, the solder wasn't even connected to the hole at all. However, because it was blown out at some point, probably from the previous attempt at repairing it, it was like completely gone, the copper piece that grounds it out. So the back side of it was still there. So what I did was I scraped it off with a razor blade, and I was actually able to connect the solder to that. So now we know for a fact it's connected to the top side of the board, it's connected to the pin going through this hole, and now it's connected to the bottom side. So we have a fully secured port. So that is fantastic. That's exactly what we're looking for. Now we're gonna let the board cool down, clean up the liquid metal a little bit, and get it put back together and test it out. Okay, so as I'm putting the motherboard back in here, I kind of noticed that there's no thermal gum, as I call it. No thermal gum right there, and it's also not right here, which means it was taken off or something and never put back on. We're just gonna steal some from the side over here. And we're just gonna put that on there. We'll just take a little bit more from the front there, because this over here, it like spreads out and it just like sits on the board. So basically there's spare over there, but that should be enough to cover that. But yeah, I figure that, you know, that probably would have been causing a problem too at some point. So hopefully, I mean, this console at this point is fairly dirty, and I'm sure that it probably has overheating issues. The liquid metal was able to stick, but you never know if it actually sticks properly, because sometimes you can open it back up. Like if I were to open it back up right now, it could all be separated again, just because sometimes it doesn't like to stick, and unless if you do the full extraction and reapplication of it and stuff like that, then it can separate. There's a possibility it can separate. And if you're wondering, well, why don't you just fix it or whatever, that's because I do fast turnaround times. So that's what my business is built on. I do put the liquid metal back where it's supposed to be. However, that's like an upcharge, right? To do like a full cleaning and stuff where I disconnect, or not disconnect, but disassemble the rest of the console and then go back through, because otherwise I can't keep my times down. My times right now are at 30 minutes. I have 30-minute turnaround time for any HDMI ports, and if I were to add something like that, it would increase the time to an hour. So, and yeah, there's a drastic change in the time. I do a deal though, where if I'm already inside of the console, I don't charge you nearly the full amount of the cleaning. So it's just a little add-on that I put on there, if they want it. But if they don't want it, then I don't really, do anything about it. Because sometimes they'll come in and they'll look horrible, and I'll put the liquid metal back on there, and the system will run forever, and I'll never hear from them. And then sometimes the system looks perfect, and put the liquid metal back on, and then, after like a few months, they're like, hey, like it's starting to overheat. And I'm like, bring it in, we'll take a look. And even though it's super clean, some of the consoles are just different from other consoles. So I'm gonna go ahead and get all these screws put back in, and then we'll start putting the rest of the console back together. And also, if you are wondering, we do not do bug removal services, so don't contact us with that. The problem with them is the same thing. If there's bugs inside of the console, we typically will not do the overheating repair, and the reason for that is like if there's like a little bit and they're all dead and like there's like not much in there, then yes, but when it's like this, we won't. And the reason for that is you saw the corrosion inside of there and stuff, and it can actually corrode some of the components on the motherboard, which can cause overheating issues too. So even if we were to do our full overheating thing and got rid of like as many bugs as we could see and stuff like that, and clean it up real nice and the liquid metal and everything, it'll still probably overheat just because they're in places that they shouldn't be. They destroyed things that they shouldn't have destroyed. So yeah, typically if we see bugs like that, we don't do cleanings on them, and we also don't do like bug removal. That's not a service that we provide at all. I'm not interested in that personally at all. I do not like that, and I do not want to ever get into that. So, because I hate bugs. But we're gonna go ahead and test this console out now and make sure everything works. All right. Well, this is unfortunate. Corrosion on the bottom of these pads. Ask me how I know. I plugged it up, everything worked just fine, but the lights weren't coming on, and that's because these are corroded. Like I said, these bugs will destroy everything. Hopefully I can scrape this free of the corrosion a little bit. I highly doubt it's gonna work, but it worked. The light was on when it came in. It's just when I went to plug this back in, it doesn't work. So let me try scraping this first and see if we can get it to work. All right, it looks like I was able to get most of it off, so hopefully those contacts are clear enough now to make a full connection, and hopefully the lights will turn on. All right, well, it definitely worked, so. And the HDMI port works perfectly fine, but yep, the light's on. So in case you thought I didn't know what I was doing, there's proof. You got proof right there. I know what I'm doing. Actually, it was just kind of wild that there was so much corrosion on that, and I was able to scrape it off with no damage. Pretty amazing, and I'm glad that the lights work. So the system works fine. HDMI port works great. Hopefully he won't have to get it replaced again anytime soon because it was actually put on right this time. So I know this video is a little bit longer than most of my videos, but if you made it this far, thanks for watching. Reaper's Electronics.